Hi guys, welcome back. It's LSP. It's currently the 20th of September 2021. Usual breakdown on Bitcoin CHSB, and I'll go over graph because everybody keeps driving me crazy about it. And it is a new addition to the Swissborg's Wealth app, which is this one here. So we'll have a quick run through this as well. I know a lot of people are anxious to get my take on this. And we'll do the usual, start with Bitcoin, go to CHSB, and then I'll do graph at the end. If I can, I'll split the video into the three sections, so it's like Bitcoin, you know, like I've noticed some people in their videos, they kind of have chapters or whatever it is, so you can just click the one that you want. So I'll have a fiddle around with it. Excuse me, I'll have a fiddle around with it, and I'll see if I can split it into three, so Bitcoin, CHSB, and graph, if you want to kind of just move around the video that way. If I don't do it and I can't do it, it's probably time issue or time constraint. But other than that, you know, it should be pretty simple to do because you can just do it in the YouTube studio. So before I get into the analysis, obviously, you know, my videos are the best videos that you'll ever watch. Okay, when it comes to technical analysis, when it comes to reading, you know, price. So give it a thumbs up, or else. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe, or else. No, I'm just kidding, guys. So, or am I? No, I'm just kidding. Seriously, I'm kidding. So, Bitcoin, I mean, look, before I say anything else, I woke up this morning, I had a look at the charts, and I was like, okay, so we're moving lower, you know, and I obviously am almost numb to the fact that price does this stuff, yeah. So when I talk about price, I talk about it in a very objective, very clinical, methodical, and unbiased, emotionless way, yeah. And it's important that I say that now because I know sometimes when I talk about price, I'm obviously aware that there's people in, you know, at highs. Some people have bought in the 50s. Some people have bought in the 40s, and some people are down here in the 20s. You know, I'm aware of, you know, that there's going to be a myriad of different people in different positions, you know, throughout this entire range. Yeah. So when I say some of the things that I say, I know some people might think, oh God, you know what, this guy is pretty on point. He's right most of the time. You know, price generally tends to go where he's saying it's going to go. I really don't need this shit right now. And I've been back and forth with somebody about this. Pleasant, you know, nothing bad about it. But you know, I was just saying to him, look, you know, I can't help but just say whatever's on the chart, you know, and it's important to be able to do that, to remain objective when you're doing your analysis, because if you don't, you end up getting caught on the wrong side of things and you put your own spin on it. I just want price to do this, you know, as opposed to what is price doing, you know. Price will always do whatever it wants to do. We're not in control of price. We're in control of our emotions. We're in control of our position sizing. We're in control of, you know, where we get in. We're in control of our patience. These are the things that we're in control of. We're not in control of price, and this is important. Yeah. So with Bitcoin, we're obviously having some downside, you know, and that's affecting, you know, pretty much everything across the board. But what's interesting to note, if you just take a look up here, I track how much Bitcoin moves and how much CHSB moves. Yeah. And as I keep saying, the relationship between the two and the correlation between the two is getting less and less and less and less and less. Yeah. If you go back 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, you would have noticed that when Bitcoin moved even slightly, you know, CHSB went insane, you know, in the direction of wherever Bitcoin was going. Whereas now, if you do the calculation from where Bitcoin was to where Bitcoin is now, just today, then CHSB technically should be in the low 50s. Yeah. And if we just quickly go over to CHSB, you know, we'll see that the low today was 56, and we should have been down here, you know, in this daily liquidity pool within this weekly liquidity pool. So it's important to say that now, because the effect that Bitcoin is having generally on the market as a whole is getting, there's less and less of an impact that Bitcoin is having on the general overall market, which isn't a bad thing. Yeah. And I have some ideas about that in terms of global currencies and the way that Bitcoin is being integrated into different countries and so on, which if I have time, and I probably won't, but if I have time, you know, I'll do a completely separate video just about that, and it'll be an informative video. It won't be an analysis video. So getting into the actual analysis, we had there is still this candle here, which is pretty important, right? The imbalance within this has been cleared up just to about here. Okay, now price effectively, that's a terrible drawing, but price effectively needs to come. Yeah, we'll do it here. Price effectively needs to come to this point to rebalance completely. Now here's the problem. If price reverses, because there's so much going on this chart, even just in this, literally this small section right here is what's in play. This is the most important part right now. Okay, on the upside, and this is not Bitcoin is bearish, Bitcoin is bullish, we want to see this, we want to see that. No, what's important for price to continue now past 56 and upwards, yeah, price needs to clear this line right here. Okay, now the only way it can do that is if price goes obviously above this, okay, clears out the imbalance or rebalances, okay, reacts from that, comes back down, okay, reverses, comes back up, and then gets through this, and clears everything out. Completely different structure of price, and then it starts to run to the upside, and we'll start to get up into these areas up here, and then obviously we'll break that down when that time comes. Now obviously Bitcoin at any point can just rip to the upside, and this happens. It can happen. Just as price dropped like this very quickly, we could just as easily see a move to the upside, pretty much the same thing, right? But with the sluggishness of the market at the moment, the last week of September approaching, going into October, which is generally quite a volatile month. There's a lot more volumes coming into the marketplace. We're seeing obviously some downside first, which indicates that price needs to come lower to accumulate more Bitcoin, or to accumulate more, right? Without this accumulation of more, there is no opposing liquidity pool that price is going to drive for. Again, very important to understand that. So when we see price come down, this is where we need to make that shift from emotion getting in the way, the loss that we're currently sitting on, for example, getting in the way, and so on, and put all of that aside and say, right, if Bitcoin's coming down and it's coming into areas that we've already denoted, yeah, we know this is an imbalance down here, we made a note of it. We know there's liquidity down here, we made a note of it, and we start to run through the scenarios. If price comes down, clears the imbalance, so it rebalances all of this right to the tip of the box, okay? Imbalance, rebalanced, yeah, completely done. At that point, if we don't get a reaction, we're coming down here, which creates another full liquidity pool, right, all the way down to it's actually lower, to the tip of this wick, 36,400, okay. But I'm just going to encompass the bodies, just encompass the candles for ease of analysis. We have all of this to go through as well, okay? Now remember, think about how price moves and how, we see price bouncing around these different levels, these different areas, and you'll get these drops, rebalance, and it drops maybe a little bit more, and it might tap it slightly and then rip to the upside, and then it's at that point you've got to say, wait a second, there's still a lot of liquidity below, okay? Now, does it need to pick up that liquidity? And then we break all of that down, and then we just keep doing it. And this is why it's so important to stay on top of price all the time. Daily, and keep track of flows. So as it stands, yeah, there is a section up here, okay, that price needs to drive into to rebalance, okay? And one of two things can happen at that point. It could just continue and just rip to the upside, okay, which means we're going to be touching this area up here, around about the sort of 56,000 to 57,000, or we have a full rebalance and then it drops. Okay, so just as it hits the tip of this, it drops, maybe a little bit lower, and then it drops and starts to drive lower, and then we start to break this down and then this down, because there's a liquidity pool here now and a liquidity pool here now, which will become the inverse as price starts to go to the upside. On the downside, it is possible that we clear this out, okay, and dip into this liquidity pool down here. So the 40k is potentially on the cards. I'm not sure if I'm confident enough yet to say that that will happen, But just based on the way that price is looking right now and the way that the flows have happened within this consolidation and within this consolidation, it is looking like price does want to drive down there. And we all know that Bitcoin is more than capable of doing that. So going forward, just be mindful of that. The imbalance here is almost guaranteed to get traded to, unless we see something insanely significant and price just rips to the upside and clears this. If that happens, it's fantastic, because it slows down the time it's going to take. It basically shortens down the time it's going to take for Bitcoin to start to run towards fresh levels like 56, 57, 58, because we've not seen these levels for quite some time, and possibly higher. So be mindful of this. Check the reaction as it hits it. Be mindful of the liquidity pool down here, and remember, it is quite large, all the way from around about 40,000 to 37,000. Be mindful of this. Bitcoin is volatile, its ranges are large. It's not just, well, it's going to tap a liquidity just here and then that's it. It can quite comfortably spend the next year bouncing around this liquidity pool until it's completely cleared it up, and then it has to go to an opposing liquidity pool to offload. Now that doesn't mean that can happen straight away. Again, that might take another 2-3 years. We just don't know. Obviously, we track this as it goes, and these are just hypotheticals, guys. I'm just trying to really emphasize the fact that this is a liquidity pool, that ranges from 40,000 all the way down to around about 37,000. Okay, that price can work within for quite some time. So just be mindful of that. So that's Bitcoin. Again, I'm going to jump over to the weekly because I just want to quickly say, as much as the daily does look a little bit bearish and everything else and so on, the bottom line is we've got a lot of stuff, that's holding Bitcoin up on the weekly. We are right in the middle of a very large liquidity pool from the upside. So we dropped, came back up, hit this, we're dipping. And if we hold in this area here, however long it takes, it doesn't matter, this whole area down here, then we could see a very nice run to the upside. That will be the one that could take us to 68 to 69,000 on Bitcoin. Right, so that's Bitcoin. Let's jump over to CHSB. And again, if you guys, anybody that's not, in the Discord for Swissborg, the link is in the description below. You'll generally tend to find me in the wealth and trading channel, and I do sometimes pop onto the French side from time to time. But generally, I'm in the wealth and trading, the English-speaking one, where I kind of post a lot of stuff in there in terms of charts. I say a lot, not a lot, but only what's relevant at the time. So these levels, this larger box here is the weekly liquidity pool. This is the daily liquidity pool. Okay, and this is an area that I made a mention of, saying that, if price comes down, this is the area where it's likely to come to. If I just drop down to the 4 hour, I can't think I just showed it on the 4 hour. So that's what it looks like on the 4 hour. And it is broken up into smaller liquidity pools here, but it's basically touched it nicely. A little bit more downside to clear this out if it wants to do that, which it's looking like it does. This is obviously a level that we really need to get through, and then stabilize at 1. I did say this quite a while back, quite a while ago, and I was mentioning this in the Smart Talk that I do with Ben. For the DAO, that's every Thursday at 6:30 GMT time. So everybody's always welcome. We chat, we talk, we go from a lot of educational stuff. Ben talks about his stuff, I talk about my stuff, and it's a great opportunity because we're on Discord for anybody to just pipe up, ask questions. It's very, very nice, wicked community over there. So everybody's welcome. But I was discussing this. But right now, as it stands, we've had a really nice dip, taken out this low, dipped into the liquidity pool, pretty much cleaned it out. There's a little bit left, and it's not the wick down here. I just showed you on the 4 hour. There's a little bit left, and it is looking like price is probably, unless we reverse this convincingly. This is effectively how it's going to go now going forward. If this candle, today's candle, isn't reversed, okay, and these highs here aren't taken out, then we are probably going to continue to bleed into this liquidity pool down here, where a whole new cycle will start again. And then, as I keep saying, there's only two things that we're expecting on CHSB. Either an injection of volatility comes into the market, CHSB, and it pops, which is the only thing that's going to get this thing moving, or it's just going to bleed slowly lower. And I made a reference to this quite a few times recently. And that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing this kind of really lethargic, slow bleed. It's not aggressive. It's not insane. It's not a massive, sharp drop. You know, price is just comfortably going to its liquidity, picking it up. You know, and by the looks of things, it doesn't really need to trade to an opposing liquidity pool on the upside right now. After it's just tagged this, so it is possible it might want to drive into this daily liquidity pool down here. We'll call it 50 to start with. I'm not saying obviously this is going to happen. As I said in a previous video, I'm not calling any more levels. You know, people get upset, right? But I think the accuracy is a bit too much for people, I think, and I say that with all humility. You know, I don't want people getting into trouble. So just expect, like I said, if this candle's not reversed and this isn't taken out here and this imbalance isn't cleared up, then it's very unlikely that price is going to do anything other than just kind of slowly bleed lower, potentially into this daily liquidity pool, you know, and then kind of hover around here for a little while. So that's CHSB. We'll go over to graph and have a little bit of a talk about this. I do like the weekly on this. I was looking at this recently. Again, not dissimilar to Bitcoin, as I was saying, you know, but we've had, here's what's interesting about graph. You have this initial, all right, let's just do something about this black. It's disgusting. Yeah, we want nice fluffy colors, man. Happy colors. Black is so just, you know. So anyway, we have this liquidity pool, okay, which is the largest liquidity pool on the weekly chart. A nice explosion to the upside. Price comes down, dips into it, reacts a little, dips in a little bit lower, stabilizes here because it doesn't dip below the the previous low that it created, and then it slowly starts to come up to eat into this imbalance, right, and then it pulls back into another liquidity pool just here. So if graph stabilizes here, okay, we're already in a very large liquidity pool anyway, so I'm not going to start marking every single one, but this is the most significant one at the moment because we've had a small reaction from here. Yeah, if as price has pulled down now, there's no imbalance. It's literally just, it's in liquidity right now. So if price responds, we want to see the high of this week's candle, this one, traded above, stabilize, okay, and then potentially a run up to take out these highs. Now, a lot of people, I know this because I used to do this, and I see it in the chats that I'm in, and I talk to people privately, you know, and people ask me questions, and I can kind of understand without them even saying it. I know what they're thinking. You know, price is irrelevant. I've said this many times, you know, and unfortunately people still feel that it's important to get the absolute best price, and they want to catch the low and they want to catch the high. You're never going to do that, ever. Yeah, you could trade for 100 years, and trust me, you might catch a few, because statistically you will, but in the bigger scheme of things, it's never going to make much of a difference to you. Okay, so we want to catch the bits that make the most sense, where the confidence levels are high, where analytically it makes sense and logically it's sound. All right, so why am I going to anticipate now that price could potentially bounce on graph within this liquidity pool, within this larger weekly liquidity pool, okay, and just buy it here, when I can wait for confirmation that price goes up, takes out this high, stabilizes, and then I grab it at, say, 81 instead of 71, and still take that last portion that goes up into around about 110 to 115 as it clears out this and, you know, goes a little bit deeper into the imbalance, right? I'm still making money. I'm still in at a great price relative to the full range of graph. Yeah, so does it matter if I miss out on 10 pence? Of course not. Or 10 cents, sorry. You know, of course it doesn't. Now, if price doesn't confirm what I'm expecting and it continues to bleed lower, then I do the same thing again. And that initial, and you'll find this happens quite a lot, the initial entry at 71, anticipatory entry, will end up being a confirmation entry as price comes lower, clears out, does whatever, picks up, turns around, then you get your confirmation which is lower, and then by the time it stabilizes, it's at 71. But it's safer, makes more sense, more logical. You have more confidence in the pickup that you're doing, you know, and the trade or the investment that you're in. And you know, obviously the price is exactly the same as it would have been had you anticipated and ended up sitting through that, yeah, and then waiting for that confirmation and so on and so on and so on. So effectively, this price at 71 ends up being, when you do it wrong and anticipate the entry, your break even to get you back to break even. Yeah, really think about that, because it's so important what I've just said, right? So we'll drop down to the daily. We'll get rid of the larger liquidity pool, because I don't really need that on the chart. So the weeklies here, you can see it's dipped in a little bit lower. This one here is basically what it's resting on right now. So we're going to refine the liquidity pools. We're going to get rid of this one. So that was the weekly one. Now we're on the daily liquidity pool. You can see there's a little bit left. We've got a small imbalance here, more liquidity down here. So for me, I mean, there's beautiful liquidity here, really nice imbalance. I mean, this is poised. This is set up really nicely in terms of upside. So effectively, I stand by what I just said. I'd want to see that weekly high taken, get price above 81, past 81 stabilize, grab some, and I'm just hypothetical, it's not trade advice obviously, you know, and then you get a nice drive for these and this. And so far it seems to be, in terms of correlation to, you know, between Bitcoin and graph, seems to be holding up very well. Structurally this looks beautiful, man. I really like the way that this chart looks, to be fair. Let me drop down to the 4 hour and just take a closer look. It doesn't trade that much, obviously. You can see that with all of these gaps everywhere. Let me drop down to the hourly, will be even worse, I'm sure. Yep, you can see price skips. And these are the inefficiencies, you know. You can see this is not efficiently traded price at all. Inefficient. I mean, look, there's gaps everywhere, you know. So, yeah, it looks like it's just going to be weekly and daily that we're going to have to stick to on this. But that's graph for you guys. That's what I'm seeing. I am liking the setup. This is really nice technically, the way it looks and what it represents from an understanding delivery point of view, or price delivery point of view. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to leave it at that. Obviously, I hope everybody enjoys the analysis. You know, I don't, you know, let me just have a drink, guys. You know, I can't even remember what I was going to say. The point is, I hope everybody enjoyed the analysis. The video is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but, you know, hey ho. So with that said, enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. If you're not part of the Discord, like I said, LSP TV, join below. I actually post videos in there that I don't post publicly. They're all unlisted, and I answer people's questions through videos and stuff. So it's really cool. Just join it. Trust me, you're going to learn a shit ton of stuff. And that's it. So take care, guys, and I will speak to you in the next video or in the various chats that I'm in. All the best.